Once a cop, let it knock, yeah. For one thing, we should celebrate redemption instead of condemning it. Corey Pegues, what up? Talking truth, bruh. Check it out. Once a cop.
Pull up a seat. You're now in Corey's Corner, where right conversations matter. I'm your host, Corey Pegues, and I always keep it right, not real. Today on Corey's Corner, we're joined by Lieutenant Patrick Gordon, a proud native of Brooklyn whose journey reflects dedication, discipline, and deep community service. Patrick began his NYPD career in 2009 as a traffic enforcement agent and rose steadily through the ranks to police officer, sergeant special assignment, and currently now lieutenant, serving in the office of the chief of department. Over the years, he served in key commands across the city, including the 7-9, the 8-3, and the 8-8 precincts, PSA 3, the Strategic Response Group, Community Affairs Bureau, and the Office of the Police Commissioner. Beyond a uniform, Patrick is owner and operator of Bed-Stuy Karate Do, a martial arts and after-school program serving over 100 families. His commitment to giving back has fueled major community initiatives, book bag drives, holiday toy distributions, Thanksgiving dinners, and free NYPD prep exams for young people. He's also the president of the NYPD Guardians Association and served on the board of NOBLE, the national organization of Black law enforcement executives, advocating fiercely for Black officers to thrive, compete, and advance. With degrees in emergency management and a master's in public affairs, Patrick Gordon is a leader shaping both the NYPD and the communities in which he loves. Pat, welcome to Corey's Corner.
Thank you.
Happy to have you, man.
I'm happy to be here.
Been waiting for you to come on. Before we get into the interview, I want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by the NYPD Guardians Association, whose president is Lieutenant Patrick Gordon. Let's start in the beginning. You grew up in Brooklyn. How did your upbringing and community around you shape the leader you've become today?
So before we get started, I just want to put out a little disclaimer there, out there. And, my name again is Patrick Gordon, president of the NYPD Guardians Association. Today I speak as myself and also as president of the Guardians Association. I do not represent the New York City Police Department or none of its leadership in the interview. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you very much for putting that disclaimer.
But I love that question. I think everything about growing up in Bed-Stuy, just seeing interactions between the police and young people in Bed-Stuy in the early 90s, early 2000s, it really helped shape, how I police today. And I'll give you an example. I remember being a young man standing in front of my karate school and being stopped by a police officer. We had some cups in our hand. We had some juice. And they stopped. They driving in a van. They stopped, jump out, take the cups, put their nose to our cups to see if it was alcohol. They put their nose in each of our cups.
What?
And it was, all right, you guys are good to go. They gave us the cups back for us to finish drinking the juice that we had. So things like that, I think it helps shape the way our police, and now as a supervisor, the way I think that we should make sure our cops are policing the community. I think that those experiences help shape who I am today.
What experiences at New Utrecht High School or Metropolitan College of New York stand out as pivotal moments in your development?
So New Utrecht High School, it's a school in Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn. So I'm a kid coming from Bed-Stuy, commuting to Bensonhurst.
Bensonhurst. The Griffin story was in Bensonhurst.
Exactly, yeah.
Where young black male in the late 80s was on Howard Beach and was jumped for no reason at all and killed by a mob of white guys. So, okay.
So that New Utrecht experience was kind of one of my first experiences leaving my community and spending a lot of time with a different community, right? Mm-hmm. Being younger, I did everything, almost everything in Bed-Stuy, unless I went to visit family in the South. But going to New Utrecht, I was introduced to a whole different community of people. And the experiences, again, those are some things I believe helped shape me as well. Some of the comments and jokes that we would hear, because, being a black male, we were the minority by far in New Utrecht and Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. And so I got an opportunity to deal with other groups, and I saw things, I heard things, and I learned from those things. They gave me more. I think it made me more of a fighter. They made me want to succeed even more than I did previously.
Yeah. At what point did you decide to pursue a career in law enforcement?
So,
because as I said on your bio, your intro, you went the route of becoming a traffic agent. And so for the audience, New York City Police Department is actually in control of traffic agents. So it's kind of cool that he went from the very beginning of traffic agent, and he will be a chief one day to rise up. So that's pretty cool.
No, yeah. So the traffic story, I actually joined traffic at 18 years old. I was going to school at night and working during the day. When I was applying for the police department, I found that the cops could do like 20 years and then they could retire.
Yes,
and
20
so
and out. 20 and out.
Yeah, I mean that 20 and out really sold me. I thought I was getting ahead of the system by starting to work for the city, going to school at night. So the whole purpose of going to traffic, I thought that it would propel me and get my time account. And something so interesting actually about that, I literally got a text today. I couldn't sponsor because I'm not an elected, but I wrote a bill that allows traffic agents to get their time counted towards their 20-year career.
On the end?
No, up front.
Up front.
And so it passed in the New York State Senate, passed in the New York State Assembly. This summer, City Council gave us the home rule resolution, and so all we're waiting for is Governor Hochul to sign it. And I was communicating with people from her office today. We expecting it to be signed any day now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's big.
Thank you.
For the traffic agents. That's nice. What did that role teach you about the city and about the people? Because let's just be honest. Mm-hmm. No one likes traffic agents.
It's true.
No, I despise them to this day. No one likes traffic. When a traffic agent walk up to you to give you a ticket, and you get that asshole traffic agent that don't want to give you a break. But being a police officer for so many years, I also understand that they have performance measures. They can't let everybody go.
Absolutely.
But nobody likes them. How was that experience?
So I'll tell you what's so funny about that is that traffic agents don't like traffic agents. So, we would have, people that were colleagues getting tickets from other colleagues. So, I think that feeling is kind of mutual. So, everybody feels that way. Yeah.
You've been assigned to multiple precincts and bureaus across the NYPD. Which assignment challenged you the most and why?
I love that question. The most challenging one, I think, but it's also the most rewarding one, has been my time working in the chief of department's office and the police commissioner's office. And
but I guess you get like a holistic view.
Absolutely.
When you're there, right?
Absolutely. You get to see a lot.
Not a regular lieutenant on a patrol in the street.
No, yeah, you get to see how things are really made, how things are really done, and I think why it's challenging because the expectation level is very high. People expect a lot from you.
A lot of pressure.
And, you have really good friends who, they want things. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But I think you get a real good look into how things work. Yeah.
What did it mean for you to be promoted to police officers, sergeant, special assignment, and then lieutenant?
So for me, promotions have, and I say the same thing about, the men and women of the Guardians Association. I think promotion for us, people as color, is crucial. And the reason why I feel like that is because it's the same thing when we're out there policing in the street, right? Things come down to discretion. It comes down to how well you can relate to somebody's experience.
Life experience,
yeah. And I think that different groups have different experiences. And this is one of the things as the president of the Guardians that I'm laser focused on. I notice, and I've brought this up in a few instances, that the disciplinary is so different, right? You'll see blacks make up like 17% of the department's uniform side, but on any given day, we could account for 30, sometimes 40% of the people that's suspended, modified. It's very similar with Hispanics, right? And my belief is that how we're viewed, and this is an American issue, right? It's not just a police department issue.
Yeah.
I think that whenever we're involved in something, it's automatically viewed as criminal. And when other people get involved in things, it's, you know, the young person made a mistake. It's a little bit of misconduct. But I think that anytime we're involved in something, it goes straight to criminal. And I think that has impacts on the discipline of it, right? And so why I think it's important, because these decisions, you know, could go different ways depending on who the patrol supervisor is, who's the duty captain, who's the duty chief, you know. And so that's why I think it's very important that we have a seat at the table.
Well, let me tell you about this young sergeant named Corey Pegues, who was under Howard Safer, which is on record as the most heavy-handed and racist police commissioner tenure in the history of the NYPD. So I had a civilian complaint that the girl said I did something. I said I didn't do it. Let's go to trial.
Right.
They offered me 5 days. I went to trial. The trial room, we have a trial in the NYPD, just like a regular trial outside. The advocate, after the trial, recommended 15 days. So remember, they offered me 5, went to trial, recommended 15.
Right.
It went up to Howard Safer. He gave me 30 days and a year.
Wow.
Suspension. So the 30 days is they taking 30 vacation days, and the 1 year is 1 year on probation. If you sneeze, you can get fired. So I totally understand the plight of young black officers in the NYPD. So for the young black officers looking, if they offer you 5 days, just take it. Just take it. Don't play games with these people. It's still a kangaroo court.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it hasn't changed much from when I was there. Now you're assigned to the officer chief of department. What does your day-to-day leadership role look like?
So I'm actually now assigned to the police commissioner's liaison unit.
Okay.
But I just left the chief of department.
I remember when that unit started. You know the first black officer was in the police commissioner's liaison unit?
No, I don't know who it was.
First grade detective Dennis Jones.
Oh, I love that guy.
He was the first one. Shout out to Dennis, my
okay,
brother.
I love Dennis. Yeah. Good.
Police Commissioner Ray Kelly started with a black, Hispanic, Asian, you know.
Yeah.
Different representatives.
And that's important because everybody
Yes.
I believe that everybody want to feel representation. Everybody should have an opportunity to get your concerns to the powers that be. And so I think that having representation of varying backgrounds is crucial, man.
It is. And it's nice to have, you know, somebody that represents a particular segment. If it happens in the Muslim community, you have the Muslim representative show up. You know, because then the people are more easy with the cop. Oh, he's a Muslim, or it's a Hasidic person there, you know, so on and so forth.
And being from that unit, people know that you have the police commissioner's ear. You can get a message to the commissioner, which is important. It's very important. So, you know, I think that it's a great unit, and I think with the right people, it's a perfect place.
Yeah, that's great. You know, it's funny because when I was a police commander and something happened and a liaison would come from the police commissioner office, usually like a detective or a sergeant or a lieutenant. I'm a captain or an inspector. And I would tell the cops, listen, if the liaison shows up, that's the police commissioner speaking. Do you understand?
Yeah,
like,
a lot of times.
I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke. Just let's take care of them, give them the information. Because you know how some people could be really snobbish. Want to give the information. I'm a lieutenant. You got this detective coming up. So, detective / police commissioner.
Right, yeah.
Give them the information, please.
And you want to get these people in. I remember being a sergeant on the desk, and, you know, duty captain come in, is like, I want to get them in and out.
Right.
Like, I don't need them sticking around for nothing.
That's
Get them what they need. Let them keep it moving.
Now, of course, your career, what's one lesson that you learned about leadership that has stayed with you?
So one of my favorite quotes regarding leadership comes from someone who was definitely a mentor. He's a lieutenant. He was a lieutenant, Larry Francis. He passed away.
Rest in peace. That's my guy.
Yeah. So I remember when I was getting ready to get promoted to sergeant, Larry pulled me in his office and he says, Pat, He says, good decision making comes from experience, and experience comes from past bad decisions. And I sat there and I thought about it for a second. He says, listen, when you're going to become a supervisor, you're going to make mistakes, but you'll learn. And those mistakes that you make will help you become a better supervisor. And so I've learned so many, or adopted so many management principles. But I think because who it came from, and that conversation that we had, you won't believe this, that was the night he passed.
Wow.
We had that conversation. I never forget. I was leaving work. I signed out around 3:40 that day. I was headed to karate school.
Right.
And he grabbed me. He's like, Pat, I was getting ready to get promoted the next month. We didn't know when the class was going in.
Yeah.
All I knew, the next class I was going in. And he grabs me, come in the office. I know you're getting ready to get promoted soon. We talked for an hour.
Wow.
And I had already signed out.
Yeah.
I looked at the time. I said, Lou, I'm off the clock for over an hour. I got to get to the karate school.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll see you tomorrow, my man. And that night I got the call that he passed. Within 3-4 hours of us having that conversation where he gave me that quote. So that always stays with me.
Wow. Yeah, rest in peace to Larry. He was a good brother. So what are your thoughts? We have a new mayor, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the new mayor's proposal as the president of the Guardians Association to have trained mental health professionals show up to the scene in crisis calls instead of or in addition to police officers? Before you answer, he's not recreating, he's not doing something that's not being done around the country. From my understanding, there was media about former Chief of Department Rodney Harrison is working with him. And he agreed, like, I don't think this is a big deal.
Right.
So you, as the president of the Guardians Association, your members will have to deal with this. Now, I do know cops don't want no change. They don't want no change. Cops don't want no change. But I really think this is a great thing. What's your feeling on that?
So to tackle that, well, that about people don't like change, right? And I think the only thing we hate more than change is things staying the same. So
You stuck.
So you stuck. But I mean, listen, I wholeheartedly believe that anything that we really want to do, if we put the right resources and you apply it, want to do it, I think it can be done. So, I say that to say, I'm optimistic about the plans. Again, I think if you have the right people who want to do it, they can carry it out. This is, like you said, this is something that's being done other places. And
very successful in other
And that's
places.
what I'm saying, exactly. So, if it could be successful somewhere else, I don't see why it can't be here, right? But we just got to have the will and the want to do it. And that's what it's going to come down to. And a lot of it is you got, part of leadership, you got to try to motivate people, And so they may be against it at first, but if you show them how it helps them and how it works for them, I think it's just really just getting people to buy into it. And that's part of leading people.
Yes, absolutely. Now, he also is making statements saying he don't want to hire more. He want to keep the numbers the same as they are now, whatever, 36,000, whatever, minus the 15,000 civilians. That could be a problem. Attrition, they're saying PBA is constantly looking for more cops. I don't know what the PBA want to do. They want more cops and they want more money. But they got to figure out what they want to do because you can't get more cops and more money at the same time. But what's his name? Headley? That's the president.
Henry,
Henry, I just saw him in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago. Yeah, but what do you think about the manpower? Because attrition is what it is. Now, I do know, everybody's saying cops going to run out the door. Man, damn it, he's a socialist. He's doing all this, all of that. I do know cops ain't running out the door because they got bills.
Absolutely.
They got
responsibilities.
They got mortgages. They got families.
Right.
But how you feel about that? And he's kind of maybe pivoting a little bit off that statement.
I agree with you. I don't see people running because ultimately your responsibility comes first, right?
Exactly.
So I don't think people are going to run out the door. And like I said, he met with the Guardians Association. He met with a bunch of the presidents. And my personal experience with him, he seems to be reasonable. I feel like you can talk to him. One of the things that he said is that he wanted to do more listening than talking. And when we spoke to him, he would ask follow-up questions. He was interested in what we had to say. So my personal experience so far is he appears to be extremely reasonable and like a guy you could talk to. And even if you don't agree on certain things, you can kind of find some type of midpoint with him. from my experience of dealing with him so far.
Okay. How do you feel about him walking back his defund the police comments? Because remember, a few years ago, he was willy-nilly out there screaming to George Floyd, defund the police and all of this craziness. And now he's running for the biggest, which I believe is the second most powerful position in politics in America, sans the president. And then it's, well, at least it's the second most recognizable.
Absolutely.
Nobody know the mayor of Boise, Idaho.
Right.
A lot of people don't even know what the mayor of Chicago look like, and that's a big city.
It's true.
But New York City is a big deal. So he walked back this statement. How do you think he really feels?
So I'm a huge believer that, the more you know, the more you grow, right? Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be a political reason. It could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? I think that people over time, they speak to more people, they meet more people, they learn a little bit more.
They evolve.
Yeah, so you evolve. So sometimes you're like, oh, well, wait a minute. I thought that way because I didn't know this at the time. And I've met a lot of people who have evolved because they've met people, they've had interactions, they've learned more, including myself. There were things that I would say, and now I know more. And I'm like, oh, man, I had it wrong before. So I'm hoping that that's the case. Again, I don't, nobody really knows but him. Yeah. But, I do think that people can grow, though, over time. And you'll learn as you learn things.
What's your membership saying? What's the feel with the new mayor? Because there's just been a lot of controversy. I mean, these conservative newspapers and channels, they just thought, you think this guy was the boogeyman. Like, he's just going to come and kill New York City, which a reasonable person don't believe that. What is your membership? Is your membership, like, up in arms? What's your membership saying?
To be honest, we kind of got, like, a mixture. Because we got some people that's extremely excited, and they're optimistic to see what comes. You have some people, which is understandable, that's nervous. I think people are always afraid of change. Because you're afraid of the unknown.
Of course.
You don't know what it's going to be. So... from my canvas, I feel like we got people on the spectrum is so wide. Okay. Some who are extremely excited and some who are nervous. So, but I think over time he has some work to do, and he'll show himself, and hopefully with the right decisions he can gain the support of people who are kind of nervous.
What do you think about him retaining Police Commissioner Tisch and her continued leadership, and what does it mean for the stability and continuity in the police department?
So I personally think that was a really good decision. I've had the opportunity to work very closely with her, and I think she's somebody that if you really get time to know her personally, you could really appreciate. She's been a really good friend to the Guardians Association, and I spoke about that at our prayer breakfast. She supported us on a number of things, a lot of things. And so she gets it also. And she's the type of person you can have a conversation with her and say, hey, this is where things are. This is how people are feeling. And she's willing to move on things. So I think it was a really good decision. I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Well, let me give you a little pushback on it. Her family donated over $2 million for Mandami not to be the mayor. Oof. And this is a close family. I mean, she's filthy rich. Her family's billionaires, own the Giants, I believe. So I'm sitting back saying, is this a political decision, or does he really want her there? Because I think it was people behind the scenes pulling his strings. And tomorrow, we taped this show. I just want to let y'all know. Thanksgiving is in 2 days, so y'all not going to see us for a couple of weeks. Thanksgiving is a couple of days. The Tisch family's going to be at Thanksgiving. And somebody in the Tisch family gave him $2 million for this guy to leave, and she's accepting a job. I think the Tisch family dinner might be some problems there.
That's a good one. I don't know. I personally don't know how much what donations were
over
made.
$2 million.
Oh, was okay.
Over $2 million.
But I think that.
But that's like $10 for me.
Right? Yeah.
You do know that, right?
But personally, I think that no matter which way you are on it, the reality is he's the mayor. He's here. So we gotta just because the reality is, like somebody else said before, like, if they're steering the plane and it crashed, you want to take the pilot. We all going down.
All going down.
I think we got to be willing to work with them, give them a shot at least. And so,
You know who said that comment?
I know said. So
Freaking Eric Adams. Eric Adams said that comment. We don't really talk nice about him on this podcast, but we give him that comment. That was a good comment he made. We're gonna pivot to the segment on Corey's Corner called Spitfire Round.
okay.
Well, I'm going to ask you 10 or 11 rapid-fire questions. You give me one-word answers, yes, no, or one word.
Okay.
Okay? You ready?
I'm ready.
Brooklyn or Manhattan?
Brooklyn.
What was your first job ever?
Traffic agent.
Yeah, you said 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Karate, kicks or punches? Which one are you best at?
Kicks.
Okay. One word your officers would use to describe your leadership style.
Fear.
Favorite place to eat in Bed-Stuy?
Bed-Stuy fish fry.
Fish fry. Okay. If you weren't in law enforcement, what career would you choose?
Definitely teacher.
Okay. What's the most important trait a police officer should have? Empathy or courage?
Empathy.
I agree. Coffee or tea to start the day?
Coffee.
You kind of hit on this, but what's your go-to motivational quote or mantra?
The one I gave you earlier about good leadership comes from experience. Experience comes from past bad decisions.
What's one thing most people don't know about you?
Believe it or not, that I'm a black belt.
I definitely didn't know. Thank you for participating in Spitfire Round. Man, I'm researching for the show. You like kicking people's ass. I said, holy shit. Patterns. You know, that's how y'all supposed to be. Bruce Lee with nobody knowing, huh?
Yeah.
I love it. Did you like Bruce Lee?
I loved him.
He was a monster?
Absolutely, yup.
Before we jump back in, I'm going to take a second to talk about something close to my heart. My award-winning book, Once a Cop, The Street, the Law, Two Worlds. One man that was actually turned into an adaptation of a feature documentary on Hulu and Apple TV. Basically a story about a young misguided kid that changed their life to become what I am today, okay? Please support if you can. You could get it on Amazon, and again, you could watch the movie on Hulu and Apple TV. Shout out to Corrupt Mob MC, where Brotherhood meets the road, for allowing us to tape Corey's podcast in this beautiful location. Respect the mob. Now, word from our sponsors.
This episode is proudly sponsored by the NYPD Guardians Association. For decades, the Guardians have stood at the intersection of service, leadership, and advocacy, uplifting Black and Latino members of the NYPD while strengthening the communities they serve across New York City. Through mentorship, community engagement, and an unwavering commitment to equity, the NYPD Guardians work to build bridges of trust, opportunity, and understanding, both within the department and beyond it. Their mission goes beyond the badge, focusing on leadership, accountability, and meaningful dialogue that moves our city forward. We thank the NYPD Guardians Association for their continued support and for investing in right conversations that matter.
This is Lieutenant Patrick Gordon, President of the NYPD Guardians Association. Check out Corey's Corner on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
You've been deeply involved in Noble, New York's community outreach and the Guardians. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to take on such a hands-on role in that work?
So how I got involved with the community outreach for Noble, another one of my mentors, Tim Pearson, as you know.
That's my mentor also.
I love Timmy, man. But Timmy was the president of Noble New York chapter.
Yes, he was.
And when he was president, he said, hey, there's some things I want to do. I need some young people kind of like yourself to help me get it done. So I was like, yeah, anything you need. So I think the first thing we did community event we did for Timmy was a Thanksgiving event. He wanted to get some turkeys together, and he wanted us to put everything together. And we did it. And one of the things I can tell you is the support that he gave, like, and this was from a noble perspective, not even on the policing side. But I enjoyed working under him. I enjoyed his leadership. He showed us how you're supposed to support your people. And I became one of the co-chairs of community outreach committee for Noble while Tim Pearson was the president of Noble. And I had a phenomenal time working for him. And that's kind of how I got started doing the community stuff in Noble.
Yeah, shout out to Timmy Pearson. He was actually my mentor as an executive, as a junior executive like yourself. He's a good man, a really good man. For those who don't fully understand, can you explain the role of the NYPD Guardians and Noble, both locally and nationally, and why these organizations are so important for supporting Black officers, shaping policy, and bridging a gap between the community and police?
Absolutely. This is probably going to be one of my favorite questions of the day because I live this and I do this every day. And so these organizations are important because, well, first off, you know, in the NYPD, we have something like 13,000 uniformed and civilian members who identify as Black, right? Whether it's you're Caribbean American or African American, you got Black skin, we call you Black.
Right.
And so there's a lot of conversations around promotions, making sure that those look equitable, making sure that what retention practices we have, right? Because a lot of people don't know, like, if you leave somebody doing 20 hard years on patrol, they're going to run out at 20, right? But if you give them a chance to get to a detail where they could get a little bit of relaxation and not be, you know, on the prowl the whole time, they tend to stay a little longer. And I did a whole project when I was going through my master's program about how the NYPD redistributes wealth, right? And what do I mean when I say that? Well, if promotions make a difference, right? Discretionary promotions make a difference, which is outside of our control generally. So if powers that be allow one person to get promoted 2-3 times discretionarily, and you one or none, your pension looks different, right? The schools you could send your kids to, you know, one person could afford to send their kids to private school, the other one might not be able to do it. So, you know, I fight these things hand on because it's a redistribution of wealth if we don't make sure that promotions are fair. And the same thing with just opportunities. This agency, there's 300 and something units in the NYPD, and you should, if you do what you got to do and you perform it to standards, you should have an opportunity to at least get a fair shake at that. And so that's why I think Guardians, Noble, it's our job to, when we identify these things, because a lot of times we do have a voice. You bring it to the powers that be and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Take a look at it. And I've done that.
Right.
This is what I see.
Oh, I know you've done that. You've been in the newspaper for doing that.
Yeah, you got to take a look at this.
You've been fighting. And just so that the audience know, that's like the Guardians and Nobles fraternal organizations for Black officers. They have Asian fraternal organizations, Italian, Irish. There's a bunch of fraternal organizations where there's presidents such as Pat of that ethnicity that's fighting for the rights of the men and women that's a part of their organization. So it's not just the Guardians and Noble, but he's here representing as the president of the Guardians, so we're staying laser focused on what he's doing. But I just want to let the audience know that almost every ethnicity, Muslims, they all have a fraternal organization now. Absolutely. Haitians, like, even Black is Haitians, Jamaicans, all kind. Everybody got.
There's about 44. I think there's another one coming up for about 45 now. Fraternal organizations, but these things are very important. I tell people you can't do this on your own, and sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes people just get overlooked. Sometimes I would like to believe that it's unintentional, right? Like, one of the conversations that I have with them is that sometimes you just get a bunch of people who all look the same, they do the same things, and they're all in decision-making capacities, right? So because they all do the same thing, they all around the same people, they start recommending the same people, right? We all live in one area and we all go to the same restaurant. We all hang around the same people. When it's time for a recommendation, we're going to go to what we know.
Exactly.
And it's not always intentional. Sometimes you do it inadvertently, right? But this is why these organizations got to be like, hey, just remember to look over here too,
Right.
look over there too.
But you need fighters. As you know, I used to be the president, and I started the Noble chapter in Long Island.
Yes.
It was very, very vocal about the men and women that was part of my chapter. So, what is the mission statement for the Guardians organization?
Absolutely. So our mission, we look to bring to the forefront our men and women who out there who's serving. We look to try to make sure people get equitable standards for promotions, equitable representation and discretionary assignments, and and then also community outreach, our work that we do in the community. So we've kind of adjusted some of because we didn't have a clear, believe it or not, you won't believe this, there wasn't really a clear mission statement when I became the president. We did a lot of work, but my team sat there and said, well, we don't have a clear, we know what we do,
right?
We don't really state it,
right.
So we kind of looked to had that done a couple months ago.
Oh, nice. That's great. So what do you think? How do you think the mission statement will guide the organization's work over the next few years?
I think that the mission statement, even though we didn't really have it identified or written down anywhere, we were really moving in that direction. That's kind of what helped us determine what it should read. In terms of how we will move forward, how we'll move going forward, I think we've already, even with the past presidents, we've been moving in that same direction, and as to fighting for equity and around promotions, assignments, what are we doing to bring in the next generation, which is very important. Right. So I think we've done things to move in the direction of the mission, and now we just really identified it.
Right. Okay. Recently, there was a situation involving Inspector Terrell Anderson, and it raised serious concerns about the psychological evaluation and how they were handled. An issue many believe was the fault of the NYPD, but Inspector Anderson was used, in my opinion, as the scapegoat, and that's probably the main reason that I kind of went hard at Mayor Eric Adams, because we both was 100 blacks in law enforcement in the 90s, and we would have never sat back and watched the hanging of Terrell Anderson. What role have organizations like the Guardians and other advocacy groups played in supporting him, seeking accountability, and ensuring this don't happen to nobody else? I really believe he has charges, which is, he's fighting for his job and everything. And then we find out some of these psychiatrists wasn't even licensed. What are you guys doing? Are y'all trying and speaking up on his behalf?
Absolutely. So first off, I'll say, what happened to Inspector Anderson, I communicate with him all the time. I think we talk maybe 2-3 times a week. But it was definitely a travesty, because so first off, this NYPD, for those that don't know, this NYPD psychological process has been an issue for decades. I'm talking to people who's talking about, I remember in the 80s, the issues that y'all complain about now, we had. Also, the issue with this psychological process, my opinion, is culturally biased. They don't account for different cultures. They don't account for responses of different cultures. And I'll give you an example. One example, and I know a young man who was disqualified, grew up in Bed-Stuy just like me. Psychologist asked him, do you feel when you walk down the street people look at you? And he said, yeah. They disqualified him and said he was paranoid, right? But he's like, I'm a male black walking through Bed-Stuy in the 90s.
Right,
that was nice. People would clutch their purse when they get close to me. But you telling me you from the Midwest, you don't have the same experience. So how you going to tell me I'm paranoid?
Right.
I had another young man who, he was recently, marijuana is legal today. They disqualified him because he said he used to smoke marijuana when he was a teenager.
Right.
They asked him how often did he smoke. He said, I probably smoke maybe every day, maybe 1 or 2 times a day.
Right.
The psychologist told him that nobody smokes weed every day unless they're dealing with depression. I said, listen, that's not true. Where I come from, people smoke weed all the time just because. They don't even know why they smoking. They just smoke because they smoking.
Yes,
but you have somebody who's not culturally competent. They don't understand our culture. And so while we got people going in the police academy with marijuana in their system, because you could get hired with it in your system, it just got to clear before you graduate.
Right.
And this kid's getting disqualified because he smoked weed 3, 4, 5 years prior.
Wow.
So, you know, because they tell him he got to have some type of depression. I said, that's not true.
That's why it's just so messed up. It's so discretionary. It's really, it's biased. I really think it's biased. As the president of the Guardians, what's your biggest priorities for black officers?
Well, right now it's getting us in, because I can tell you I got a chance to look at the numbers, and back to the Terrell Anderson thing, because I didn't finish answering that question actually, but back because it's connected to that also.
Right.
One of the things that we did is we penned an open letter to the police commissioner, and it wasn't just the Guardians. It was the Guardians, Halifo, Noble, Jam Leo. There were, I think, the Hispanic Society. The New York Dominican Office Society. We spoke about this psychological process. We have written letters of support. We've been quoted in the New York Times, the Daily News, multiple news outlets, city and state, on our position about when it comes to this hiring process. And I'll say this about the Terrell Anderson thing. What's so sad about it is that they gave a man a problem without policy change, and so they didn't give the proper policy change that was needed. Right? They just put him there and said, this is an issue. It's been an issue 50, 60 years. You go in there and fix it with no policy change.
Right.
So, you know, he's in there doing what, you know, he thought was right, and you know, and now, and it could happen. Like one person says, oh, I think you should do it this way. New people come and say, nah, it shouldn't be going that way.
Right.
You know, and now he, you know, so I think that what should have happened is there should have been policy changes at the onset. We could have identified where the issues were, and we should have created policy and writing so that this didn't happen to him. And, you know, and there were smart people at the table who could have and should have done this.
Right.
It didn't happen, and, you know, and now, unfortunately, he's in this predicament.
It's really sad. Shout out to Rob. We here for you, brother. Corey's Corner for sure. Going to keep your name out there. What progress have you seen in ensuring that black officers are competitive, promoted, and supported in their careers? So let me tell you, when I got promoted to captain, I think it was 2005, I was one of 25 black executives in the whole NYPD.
Wow.
Out of 50,000. Y'all are numbers have totally surpassed. Yeah. Y'all probably got 200 black executives, but
yes, there's definitely.
I guess I just answered that question.
Yeah, no, it's definitely because I actually just looked at a captain's executive class about a month ago, and there were 10 of them. They took 10 of them, and of the 10, 7 were minorities.
Yeah.
So it is changing.
Yeah, I got promoted. It was me and Dr. Darren Porcher.
Oh, okay, okay. Good brother.
Yeah, we was. No, we got promoted to lieutenants, but it was only 2. It was like 70 lieutenants. It was just me and him.
Yeah, I mean, it's changing. It's definitely changing. You're starting to see more diversity in the executive promotions, especially for Cal. Like I said, I looked at a Cal. I couldn't believe it. It was 7 of the 10 were minorities that was making captain. And, you know, one thing I will definitely give her credit on, Commissioner Tisha, I'm looking at these new assignments of these new precinct commanders. A lot of young people of color are receiving opportunities to get their first command. And you know, as a former commander, that's how you get promoed. Right, so, you know, you got like Julianne Stapleton, Venice Gale, Bert Anton. There's so many, my homegirl Shoshana Winters, there's a lot of young black captains receiving an opportunity now to get their first command, which will propel them to the next phases in their career. So I'm excited to see it. That's
good. A couple of them was cops for me.
Wow, you see that? Yeah.
Green from transit.
Tamika Green just got promoted. Yeah. So there's so many of them that they're moving forward in the right direction. So I'm excited to see it. And
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So Chief Faison was on Corey's Corner a few weeks ago, and he made a great suggestion, and I was happy to bring you on here to see if it's something that y'all might be thinking about. It might be something you already have in place. So he was saying, because now Chief Faison, you know, he's a black chief who got in a lot of trouble. He was in the aviation unit. They gave him charges. He just recently retired. He has a lawsuit against the NYPD for his it's just a bunch of stuff. You see the episode. But he was saying, like, these fraternal organizations such as Noble and the Guardians should have a paid lawyer on deck to help the members outside of them using a union lawyer, because he was saying, like, his union lawyer was almost like he laying in the bed with the advocate.
Right.
Like, so he had to go hire Eric Sanders, my guy, Eric Sanders, who was my previous lawyer before, to help him. And I thought that was a great suggestion. I don't know monetarily if it would work, because you have so many members, and how you divvy it out when you use the lawyer, if it's a big case, if it's a small case. But I think it's a great idea. How do you feel about that?
So first of all, on Winston Faison, I love that guy. Like, if there was a handful of people that's some of my favorite people in the job, he falls on that list. And in terms of the idea, I think it's a phenomenal idea. I think the only challenge is funding. Because, it comes down to, like, and sometimes these hours are like, I had to pay for some stuff that happened in the 1990s where the Guardian's name was mentioned.
Right.
And these were old things. It was a transit Guardian incident. It wasn't even an NYPD Guardian incident. Yeah. Well, you know who foot the bill for the lawyers? I did. We had to, us today. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea.
And the lawyers like $300, $400, $500.
Yeah. They're not cheap. They're especially if you want quality. You're gonna charge you a couple $100 an hour. So that could easily, trust me, from experience, I know you can eat through that very quickly. And then the second portion becomes who do you support and who you don't support.
You gotta have tiers, man.
Right? Because now you give him the lawyer and somebody else have an issue. Well, I didn't get the lawyer. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a great idea, but it's probably going to come down to funding, and that could be, and I would say that comes down to funding. So that's where the challenge will be. But just on a side note, just connected to that, even things that's free. I got people that call me. I'm involved in this, and that, and I want you to come out and speak out. So I said, well, let me do some research. Let me see what I'm speaking out about first, right? So even speaking out, that's free. That don't cost you nothing. But, if you do it for one, somebody else want it. But the situations could be totally different. Yeah. One case, the person may, like in the incident, the case with Terrell and them, like, that was something that he should not have been stuck to deal with on his own. So we spoke out for that, right? Yes. But then there's other people that's involved in things that they created. Right. Like, you spoke for that one, you didn't speak for me, So you run into that problem too,
Okay. Yeah, don't end up like President of Long Island Noble, Corey Pegues, who went out to Freeport and spoke out on an incident, and Ray Kelly didn't take a liking to it. It was the end of my career. But now, you own the Bed-Stuy Karate Do, serving, over 100 families. What motivated you to create that martial arts school? And you second cop, I know. You and Jeff Hunt got karate schools. Yeah. So I know one or two others that have karate schools, but so I started doing martial arts back in 1998. I started training in Tompkins Park. There's Vaughn King Cultural Arts Center, there's a community center there. Yeah. I trained there from like 98 until about, my instructor opened a private school in addition to teaching in a community center in 2006. So I went to run that school for him, his private school, in 2006. And, I just learned all of the principles of, I kind of did most of the stuff. I did the finances. I taught the classes. I did the admin stuff. And in 2006, we were generating some pretty good money. Right. So I said, wait a minute, if I could raise all this money for somebody else, I could raise this money for myself. Right. So, I went in 2011 and opened up my own school. Nice, nice. How has running the karate school allowed you to mentor young people in ways policing doesn't?
Oh, man. So I can tell you, I said I started out in 1998 in the community center. Before I started teaching at his private school or mine, I taught at this community center where the classes were free. We had an active roster of over 300 kids active. Wow. At any given day, the average class size was anywhere from 80 to a little over 100 kids on the floor. It was a free program. Wow. And so I've been a part of so many families, the good and the bad. I had just, so in terms of mentoring, a kid who I used to go to his school in the early 2000s. He went to PS5. I won't forget on True
I saw
Avenue.
you just posted up a picture with a kid.
I used to go to his school when he was in elementary school and tune him up for acting up. And he graduated recently as a court officer. And he told his mother, like, you know, listen, one person I want to be there, that person was me.
Right.
And I went to his graduation. But, you know, I've also been in situations where I've had parents come back after years, 15, 20 years. And unfortunately, sometimes their kids, you know, were killed in the street. And they remember us for being a positive portion of their life. So I've had the highs and the lows in teaching martial arts and dealing with thousands of families. Families. Yeah.
That's very honorable. Now, you credited Timmy Pearson, Lieutenant Francis, Greg Green. What did each of them, and Inspector Miller, what did each of them, in any particular order, teach you?
So Greg Green was actually, I was a traffic enforcement agent. I was a traffic agent when I met Greg. Me and Greg
Green graduated at the police academy.
Oh, wow.
It's my brother. Love you, Greg.
So I'm gonna tell you about Greg. I was a traffic agent. I'm riding down one of these streets in Best Side. I want to say Vernon or one of them, right? Writing tickets. And I think he had like a blue Lexus at the time. Stops. And a guy gets out. I'm writing to him, like, oh, man, I must have gave him a ticket down the block. So Greg jumps out the car and says, yo, brother, you ever thought about becoming a cop? You out here doing this traffic stuff? You can make more money. I didn't know the guy from nowhere.
Right.
And I had already started working on, like, I already planned to become a cop anyway. But he gave me his number. I think he was trying to do something with the Guardians. And, you know, but he stopped and took time. That was my first interaction with him. Didn't know him from nowhere. But he riding down the street, saw a young brother, got out. We exchanged information. I think I was having issues also with the hiring process, the typical things that we have. Right. And he knew some people over there, so he was able to, like, hey, take a look into this and that and make sure the brother is not being, you know, mistreated over there. That's Greg. Larry and Tyrese, both of them. I actually trained both of their kids. Both of their sons are black belts under me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's why I met both of them. And I remember being a young teenager. Both of them encouraged me to take the exam. I was like 16, 17 years old teaching martial arts, but I trained their kids. They would always talk to me about the opportunities the police department had. And when I first joined the police department and I was having some issues, you know, just trying to get my foot in and, you know, I was on crazy tours, working crazy hours. I was able to talk to them and get, you know, counseling. Like, it was a time I actually wanted to give up. I remember being in the 8-8, and they transferred me to PSA 3 because they were short housing cops. Yeah. I was like, I'm quitting. I'm out of here. I got a degree. I can go do something else. Right. And they both talked to me like, listen, it's going to be highs, it's going to be lows. Stick with it. You blah, blah, blah. And I'm glad that they did because I was really thinking about getting up out of here when they sent me to stand on the housing rooftop 2 o'clock in the morning.
Love it. Timmy Pearson.
Tim Pearson, when I tell you I learned so much from Timmy, I don't even know where to start. Right?
Give me the condensed version.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, so the condensed version, Timmy, like I said, Timmy has taught me how to be a leader, right? He taught me how to manage people. He taught me how to manage and leverage relationships. And so I could talk about Timmy for an hour, but
I'm pretty sure he taught you how to navigate through the political minutiae.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Yes. How does the values of martial arts, discipline, focus, self-control, translate into your leadership style in the NYPD?
So the discipline portion is extremely important, right? And also leadership. You know, I learned leadership styles and techniques early on, being a black belt. Like I said, I used to teach classes of 80 to 100 people, so I had assistants. But you know, I learned that everybody is different, right? You can't treat people the same. Everybody. They're individuals. People learn different. People comprehend differently at different speeds. And so I think I gained a large amount of appreciation and understanding that people are unique. And, you know, and the same thing when it comes to your management principles. Right. There's some people you could tell them one time, hey, go do this, go take care of that. And you don't got to say nothing else to them. They're good. There's some other people you got to coach them a little longer along the way. And so I learned that, I think, through my martial arts. And the discipline, I had a test of discipline, you know, even today. You know, and it helps you not make these rash decisions, not make some of these crazy decisions. You got to sometimes swallow your pride. And you know better than anybody on this job, that's crucial. A split second can change everything, right? Somebody upsets you and you respond a certain way. that response could really change the trajectory of your life. So I think that discipline has been crucial for me in this career.
How do you balance being a mentor, community leader, lieutenant, and a business owner?
So I can tell you it's tough. And I did something called a human flourishing assessment the other day. It's really good, where they have you really sit down and look at each component of your life, and you do a scale from like 1 to 10 of where you feel like you're high at and where you feel like you're depleted at. And so because I did that this week, I actually did it on Monday, I was able to see that professionally, I feel like I'm thriving, right? But it comes at a cost. And one of the things that I learned in doing this assessment, I didn't really realize it until I actually had time to sit down. I do spend a lot of time mentoring people, and my phone goes up nonstop, right, all day long, or even sometimes late at night, people call me. But I saw that I was doing really well professionally, but a lot of things in my personal life, more so around family, I was missing. And so that's why I'm grateful that this is Thanksgiving weekend. I'm taking a long weekend. I'm going down to Delaware with my family because I have neglected a lot of time with them. And I didn't even realize that until Monday. And so it does take its toll in that because I feel like, just time management and managing things. I don't think I've done a great job with that. But now that I've identified that's something I need to work on, I'm going to try to figure out how can I incorporate more family time into everything else that I'm doing.
That's good. You cannot forget the family.
Absolutely.
Because it'll be 25 years from now, you miss everything. You got to make sure that family, you stay grounded with the family at all times.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, what does true police-community relationship look like to you?
So, coming as a person who's done a lot of time in community affairs, the relationships are crucial. And what it looks like to me is having dialogue, having understanding, being able to be honest with each other, right? Just because I do community policing, I tell people no all the time, but it's the way you say it, it's how you articulate it, it's taking in what they have to say, right? So community policing is, you're not going to always give people the answer that they want, right? But you hear them out, and you tell them what our concerns are, and sometimes we can meet in the middle on things. And so I think that for me, just by having strong relationships, and I have real relationships. You and I, we've been in places with community people that we met from work, but we on our own time, and we kicking it with them. And these relationships are real. And I think that when people know that you're genuine, they'll support you. It may be times they don't agree, but they'll support you. And when you come to them with something, if they know you're genuine, you get that support. There's some people, we got some leaders, they don't have that. And so, they don't have it.
I know a few.
Yeah, and so they call me sometimes and say, hey, Pat, I'm like, ain't that your precinct? That's not your borough? And,
Exactly.
But you got precinct commanders and borough commanders, they'll call you like, I'm having an issue over here. I'm like, you do every day. You work with that council member. But, so that's why those relationships are important.
Relationships are the key to life.
Yes.
Not just success, but life,
Absolutely.
period. When you look ahead, what legacy do you hope to leave with the NYPD, Bed-Stuy, and the young people who you mentor? And we're winding down.
Yeah. So for me, I always want to leave a place better when I leave than the way I found it. And it's the same thing for the Guardians. For the police department, if I can help make sure our younger cops know that they got to study, they got to get promoted, right? If I can help beef up our numbers, which Terrell, credit to him, he's helped out, with the process. But if we can do mentoring and stuff like that to get these younger people in, and we leave with more people than what we found, that we know that we were successful. Same thing with karate. If I can find one of my kids better off than, if I can leave them better off than the way I found them, I feel like I've done my job. And for the Guardians, that has definitely been my thing. Like I told everybody, I says, for me, I want to do 2 terms. I'm not one of those people that believe in staying here forever. I was just elected to my 2nd term, so I'm on
Man, there's some heavy shoes to follow, man. Whoever take over after you.
I mean, like I said, when I walked in here, we walked into, I can tell you this, I have quadrupled the bank account in my first 2 years.
Not surprised.
Our membership has more than doubled. Financial members. Right. So my goal is always to leave it better than the way you found it.
What's poppin'? I'm Samson Styles, writer, director, producer, documentarian, and right now you're listening to Corey's Corner, where he always keeps it right, not real.
New York's NYPD Guardians throw the best parties. I've been involved in NYPD for 30 years. I don't know if they like the 2-8 Christmas parties, but you up there, and I hope I got an invite for the Christmas party.
You open invitation. Your spot is on me. Yo.
Exactly. Well, before we wrap, is there anything you'd like to share that we haven't covered?
No, I just really want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. It really means a lot. And again, you have been somebody who's been in my corner, almost all of my career. I was with you, I think, when I got a call about 4 years ago about a move that was happening. I wasn't too overjoyed about it, but you pulled me to the side. You're like, listen, nephew, you might not see it now, but
That's right.
There's something great going to be at the end of that. And you know what? I can see and tell you, I didn't see it at that time, but over time it did reveal itself, and you were 150% spot on.
That's what we're supposed to do. That's what mentors are for.
Absolutely.
Let the people know where they can find you.
So, President of the Guardians, you can look us up on Instagram, Facebook, and connect with us there. We have messaging apps where you can message and get connected to us, and we're here to support you any way you need it.
Yes. Well, listen, nephew, this has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on this show. I'm so happy to see how much you have grown into the leader that you have become. I mean, you're not far off on what Eric Adams was in the 90s as far as taking care of issues dealing with black and brown members of the NYPD and the community. You are the 2025 I'm telling you, I lived it. I was there side by side. I don't know who the hell he is now, but you are really doing a phenomenal job, and I hope that you're getting the support from inside, because you can't be on an island of your own, because on an island of your own, they're going to crucify you. Absolutely. And we don't want that. So the members in the NYPD, the members of the Guardians, please cover this brother. I know him personally. His heart is in the right place, and he wants to do good things for everybody. Black, white, Hispanic, Asians. He's just a good brother. So please support him. Thank you again for your service, your advocacy, and your commitment to making sure that officers and our communities both have the support that they deserve. We appreciate you for joining us on Corey's Corner.
Absolutely. Thanks, Unc. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Love you, man.
Love you, too.
I appreciate it. And another shout out to the sponsor for this episode of Corey's Corner, the NYPD Guardians Association, whose president is Patrick Gordon. For our listeners, if you found value in today's episode, please like, subscribe, and support. This has been another episode of Corey's Corner. Remember, it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. I'm Corey Pegues, and I always keep it right, not real. Peace.
Special thanks to our executive producer, our engineers, and much respect to Corrupt Mob for making Corey's Corner possible.
Once a cop, let it knock, yeah. I for one thing we should celebrate redemption instead of condemning it. Corey Pegues, what up? Talking truth, bruh. Check it out. Once a cop.